She stared at the termination letter in her hand, the corporate letterhead gleaming under the fluorescent lights of her corner office. Vivian Chen had built an empire from nothing, clawed her way from a cramped studio apartment to the top floor of a Manhattan skyscraper. And she'd done it by making the hard decisions others couldn't stomach. Fire a dozen employees to save 100? Done. Shut down an underperforming division? Sign the papers. She'd earned her reputation as the Ice Queen of Tech, and she wore it like armor. But on this particular Tuesday afternoon, as she prepared to deliver yet another pink slip, Vivian had no idea she was about to meet the one person who would shatter every wall she'd built around her carefully. Controlled world. Marcus Webb had been with Chen Industries for 3 years. His personnel file sat open on Vivian's laptop. Good employee. Never late, decent performance reviews. Nothing spectacular, nothing terrible. Just another mid-level software developer in a company of 2,000. The quarterly reports showed his department was bloated, redundant. 20 positions needed to go, and his name had made the list. Mr. Webb will be here in 5 minutes. Miss Chen, her assistant announced through the intercom. Vivian straightened her shoulders, smoothing down her pristine black suit. She'd delivered this speech hundreds of times. It would take exactly 7 minutes. She'd perfected the cadence, firm but not cruel, professional with a touch of manufactured empathy. She'd offer him 3 months severance instead of the standard 2, shake his hand and move on to the next name on the list. The knock came precisely on time. Come in. Marcus Webb didn't look like the desperate, down on his luck character she'd imagined. He was tall, probably early 30s, with gentle eyes behind wire rim, glasses and a nervous smile that seemed permanently etched on his face. His shirt was pressed but worn at the collar, his shoes polished but showing their age. He carried himself with the kind of quiet dignity that comes from someone who's been knocked down before and learned how to stand back up. Ms. Chen, thank you for seeing me. His voice was steady, respectful. Please, sit. Vivian gestured to the chair across from her desk, a piece of furniture specifically chosen to sit 3 inches lower than her own. Small psychological advantages mattered. He sat, folding his hands in his lap, waiting. Vivian launched into her script. Mr. Webb, I'll get straight to the point. The company is restructuring, and unfortunately, your position has been eliminated. Today will be your last day. We're prepared to offer you... Ms. Chen. He held up a hand, his voice still calm but carrying an edge she hadn't expected. May I ask you something first? She blinked. This wasn't how these conversations went. People cried, argued, pleaded, or accepted in numb silence. They didn't interrupt. Mr. Webb, I understand this is difficult, but have you ever had to choose between your child's medicine and electricity? The question landed like a slap. Vivian's mouth went dry. Excuse me? Marcus leaned forward, and she saw something in his eyes that made her forget her script. Entirely, not anger, not desperation, but a profound exhaustion mixed with something that looked almost like compassion for her. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, Ms. Chen. I'm genuinely asking. Because I have. Last winter, my daughter Emma, she's 7, she has type 1 diabetes. Her insulin pump broke, and the replacement cost $3,000. Insurance covered some, but not enough. That same week, I got the electric bill. I had to make a choice. Vivian felt her jaw tighten. Mr. Webb, I sympathize, but I chose her medicine, he continued, as if she hadn't spoken. We lived without heat for 3 weeks. Emma and I, we wore every piece of clothing we owned, slept under every blanket. I'd wake up at night to make sure she wasn't too cold, that her blood sugar wasn't dropping. And you know what? We survived. Because that's what you do when you're a single parent. You survive. Something uncomfortable twisted in Vivian's chest. She pushed it down. I understand you have financial obligations, which is why we're offering a generous severance package. I'm not asking you to keep me on, Marcus said quietly. I know that's not how this works. I've seen the quarterly reports. I know the company needs to cut costs. I'm a realist, Ms. Chen. Vivian frowned, thrown completely off balance. Then what exactly are you asking? Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He smoothed it out on her desk, a child's drawing, all bright crayons and enthusiastic strokes, a stick figure man holding hands with a smaller stick, figure girl under a smiling sun, words written in uneven letters across the top, Daddy and Me by Emma Webb. I'm asking, Marcus said, his voice finally cracking just slightly. "If you'd consider hiring me back in 6 months. Not here. I know that position is gone. But somewhere in the company. Anywhere. I'll scrub floors. Miss Chen, I'll clean bathrooms." "I don't care." Vivian stared at him, genuinely confused. "I don't understand. Why would you want to come back to a company that just fired you?" "Because 6 months from now, Emma will be eligible for the extended employee healthcare program, the one that kicks in after 3 years of service. I've got 2 years and 9 months. I'm 3 months short." He looked down at his hands. "That program covers her insulin pump, her continuous glucose monitor, her endocrinologist visits, everything. Without it, I can't afford her care. Not on what I'd make anywhere else starting from scratch." The silence in the office was deafening. Vivian felt something she hadn't experienced in years, genuine uncertainty. "So you're asking me to fire you today, but promise to hire you back later so you can qualify for benefits?" "I'm asking you to remember that I exist," Marcus said simply. "In 6 months, if there's any position, anything at all, I'm asking you to give me a chance. Not because I deserve it, not because it's good business, but because a 7-year-old girl deserves to have her medicine without her father, having to make impossible choices." He stood up, leaving the drawing on her desk. "I know that's not how the corporate world works. Ms. Chen, I know you've got thousands of employees and can't possibly care about all of our stories. But I had to ask. For Emma, I had to at least try." Marcus extended his hand. "Thank you for your time. I'll clear out my desk." Vivian shook his hand automatically, her mind racing. She watched him walk to the door. This man who'd just been fired and was somehow thanking her. He paused at the threshold. "You know what the crazy thing is?" Marcus said, not turning around. "Emma still draws you in her pictures. You visited our department last Christmas, remember? You handed out those bonus cards. 30 seconds, maybe. But she was there when I brought her to the office party. You smiled at her. Told her she had pretty hair. She went home and drew you into one of her pictures, the nice lady who works with Daddy." He finally looked back, and his smile was sad. "Kids remember kindness. Ms. Chen, they don't understand quarterly reports or restructuring. They just remember when someone sees them." Then he was gone. Vivian sat in her chair for a long time, staring at the crayon drawing. The stick figure labeled Daddy had oversized glasses just like Marcus. The little girl had a small rectangular box drawn on her hip, the insulin pump. And there, in the corner of the picture, was a third figure she hadn't noticed at first. A woman in a triangle dress, a skirt suit, with a smile and the words, "Daddy's boss," written underneath. She pressed the intercom. "Cancel the rest of my meetings today." "Miss Chen? You have the board presentation at 3. I said cancel them." Vivian picked up her phone and dialed. "HR, this is Vivian Chen. I'm sending you a file on Marcus. Webb, I want him transferred, not terminated. Find him a position in facilities management, something equivalent pay, same healthcare track. He keeps his seniority date." The HR director sputtered. "But Ms. Chen, the restructuring plan—" "I'll eliminate my own bonus to cover it," Vivian snapped. "Make it happen." She hung up before there could be more questions and grabbed her coat. She caught Marcus in the parking garage, his cardboard box of desk items tucked under one arm. "Mr. Webb!" He turned, startled. "Miss Chen?" She walked up to him, this woman who'd built an empire on hard decisions. And for the first time in a decade, she felt like she was making the right choice instead of just the profitable one. "You're not fired," she said. "You're transferred. Facilities management, same pay, same benefits track. You'll start Monday." Marcus's box slipped and Vivian caught it. Inside, she could see framed photos of Emma at a park, at school blowing out birthday candles. A whole life captured in cardboard. I don't understand," Marcus whispered. "Your daughter needs her medicine," Vivian said. "And apparently I need to remember why I started this company in the first place." She handed him back his box. "You made a request, Mr. Webb. Consider it granted." She walked away before he could thank her, before she could see if he was crying, because her own eyes were stinging, and Vivian Chen didn't cry. Not in 15 years. But as she drove home through Manhattan traffic, she kept thinking about a little girl in a crayon drawing who'd remembered kindness, and she realized that somewhere along the way to the top floor, she'd forgotten what she'd learned in that cramped studio apartment. All those years ago, that the hardest decisions aren't always about profit margins and efficiency reports. Sometimes the hardest decision is choosing to see the person standing in front of you. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is remember that you're human too.